Welcome to Dating Dames V2. I'm Jackie, and this is my lovely co-host, Michelle. Whether you're newly single, divorced, or waking up to the possibility of love again, you're in the right place because yeah, Dating Dames, we believe it's not about him, it's about you. And today we are talking about a topic that is incredibly transformational, pretty deep, so buckle up, ladies. We're talking about the concept of don't chase men, attract them. And for absolute clarity, what we mean specifically is attracting a man at a level where he meets you. And this is really important. So, what do we mean? Because we've heard this concept many times. Don't chase a man, attract them. What we are not speaking about is attracting every Dick, Tom, and Harry your way, because that's not what you're looking to do. What we're talking about is what it means to chase, what it means to attract, and what this mindset and energy shift is all about.
Mm.
So let's talk about defining mindset. Um, think about the mindset of chasing. You know, it means to push, it means to pursue, it means to over-invest yourself
Mm.
emotionally, energetically, romantically, almost pushing yourself aside in order to win this person over through your effort and persuasion. And it's also about trying to prove your worth. And when you need to prove your worth to another person, you find yourself on the back foot already because rather than glowing and living into your full power, you're constantly having to chase and
Mm.
chase and prove. And so you're working from a mindset of scarcity because here you are in full bloom as a beautiful woman. And rather than allowing a man to come your way, you are doing the chasing. And then by opposite, what does it mean to attract? Complete opposite. It's a state of being. It's about being grounded in yourself. It's about being confident, confident in who you are as a woman, confident in the role you play in your life and those of your family, friends. It's about being clear about your worth and your boundaries. And often we speak about our boundaries and our values, and we speak about what we will do and won't do. But how many of us actually action that? It's very easy to say,
Mm.
this is this is a non-negotiable for me, and I've experienced that firsthand. But how many of us are actually willing to act upon it? And then when you find yourself in a position like that, naturally you draw the right man
Mm.
without any desperate effort, because what you're doing is you're radiating value and allowing yourself to step into who you are, expanding your space, not dimming your light at all. So to put it plainly, chasing is fueled by scarcity, by fear. And Michelle and I, we were speaking about this just before we started recording this podcast. And I remember when I was younger, and of course, we date with the intention of getting married, having kids, building a
Mm.
family together, a home together, the whole happily ever after behind closed doors. And I remember none of my partners wanted kids, wanted to be married. They only wanted to, all they wanted was to have a partner in their lives and to build a business. And for me, that was quite a scary thought. And I got to about the age of 32 when I realized, oh, shucks. Everybody, all of my friends are married, kids, careers. I don't have a boyfriend that wants to be married. I've got a boyfriend, but he
Mm.
doesn't, he doesn't want to have kids. So where does that leave me? And it placed me in a position of, I was scared. I was absolutely petrified. And when you're in that position, you start making mistakes because instead of living into the full version of who you could be and the woman who you could be, you start contorting yourself and you start allowing yourself to be almost held captive by an idea that
Mm.
doesn't exist in reality. So, to put it plainly, chasing is fueled by fear and scarcity, and attracting is the opposite. It's a magnetic force and it's rooted in self-respect and abundance. So, when women chase men, it disturbs the natural energy of roles that we play. And let's be clear, what we're looking for is not just to attract a man. What we're looking for is to attract the right man that meets
Mm.
us where we are. Hey, Michelle, I've done a lot of talking
Hello.
to the
Yeah,
show.
I was just thinking as you were talking that
Yeah,
if we take the guy out of this scenario and you thought
yeah,
about friends, girlfriends,
yes,
and you imagined yourself in a scenario where you thought, "Oh, she's super cool. I want to be her
mhm,
friend." And you're like
yeah,
calling her and texting her and turning up wherever she is. Even
gosh.
that feels kind of ick.
Mhm.
And you really want to be with people and with friends or romantic partners where you can be who you are and feel comfortable in that and excited.
Mhm.
and confident, right? You don't
Yes.
want to be in a position where you're guessing in the girlfriend example, oh, she always goes to that hair salon. Maybe I should go to that hair salon. Or in a guy, oh, does he only like women who wear dresses? Maybe I should wear a dress. I mean, there are just, you need to find the comfort and the confidence in being who you are, and you will naturally
Mm.
attract the right girlfriends and romantic partners into your life.
Yeah.
And so
Mm.
if we think about it, kind of the mindset of a woman who chases in either scenario is
Mm.
more like, I need to chase. Because if I don't, I'm going to lose him. I mean, he's a great catch
Mm.
and he's ticked all the boxes that I've written down on my
Mm.
piece of paper in my spreadsheet. And I need to go after what I want. Right. I
Mm.
mean, that's another kind of scenario that people put out there. But at the same time, in order to go after him, you're going to need to prove that you're the right person for him. You don't know what's
Yes.
on his list, so you're going to be
Mhm.
guessing.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and that puts you in this position of you're not only guessing what he wants, but it's probably not who
Mm.
you are.
Yeah.
Um,
And may I just add to that? I just want to add something. So I remember when I was younger, like this experience that I was talking about, where both of my partners did not want to have kids, didn't want to be married. And I felt that way. I felt like I better prove that I'm worthy of being married.
Wife material.
I'm wife material, guys. I need to prove that. Okay, I didn't really enjoy being around kids at that young age, but it was really a thing in my mind. I need to prove that I'm worthy of wife material to
Or I
get
can
there.
change their mind. Maybe
Easy.
I can change his
That's right.
mind.
Yes, this is a common problem amongst women. Maybe I can change his mind. Maybe I am good enough to mold. No.
Yeah. So I think, and in that situation, you also find that again, you're worried, as you said. There's
Yes.
scarcity, there's fear out there. You're worried that you're not going to find that love. In
Yeah.
at this age, as we've discussed before, in 40s, 50s, and beyond, we don't
Mm.
necessarily have that same, we probably don't have that same objective. But there's still a sense that socially, we need to be partnered up. There's a lot of pressure in society,
Mm.
oh, the single woman or the single cat woman or
Mm.
whatever it is, right? Prove
Yes.
that you are
Yes.
worthy when you are more worthy when you are in a partnership.
Mm.
And conversely, so you are worthy if you're in partnership, and if you're not, it means you're not good enough. You haven't been
Yeah.
selected. You're too much, God forbid. You're taking up too much
Mm.
space. And so I think that really it changes your whole behavior and the sense of,
Does.
are you having fun and is this an adventure, or are
Ye-
you've got to lock somebody in and you've got to chase
Yes.
them
And
down.
contorting yourself in order to lock them in. Yeah.
I think, on the other side, if you're thinking about somebody who's trying to, is thinking about, I want to attract and I want to
Mm.
attract the right person for me, not every
Mm.
man. I need to get the right one or the right
Mm.
ones. Let's just assume there are a few.
Yeah. Mm.
So you think of yourself, I am the prize. I
Yeah.
am amazing. Love is going to just flow to me naturally at the right
Mm.
time with the right
Mm.
person when it
Yes.
happens. I'm
Mm.
watching, the actions and the words and listening to the words and valuing the actions over the words.
Mm.
Um, I'm choosing who will come into my circle, who I will give time to, my life energy to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
recognize that if in the end that one chat, that one like, that 1 month set of dating doesn't work out and there's rejection on either side, that's a good
Mm.
thing. It's a
Mm.
good thing. It's not rejection as in you're not enough. It's an indication of the direction you should be going.
Yeah. I like thinking of it as nurturing filtering system, a natural
Yes.
filtering system. I know this repeatedly because it's so true. And I think, but it takes a lot of strength and confidence and honesty within yourself in order to do that. And I'm thinking back specifically to a conversation you and I had when I started my
Mm.
day. And I remember how incredible, almost euphoric that first few months were with Gabriel. And then he said to me all of a sudden, "Hey, I need space. I'm
Poof.
yeah, poof, gone. I need space, poof, gone." And I remember being so upset about it for a day or two. And thereafter, I started thinking, well, like you always point out, that was just one tiny moment in the movie. And I shouldn't forget about the value that I was able to seek in the previous section of that movie.
Mm.
Um, you know what? Looking back, I would probably repeat that exercise because it was beautiful. We had an amazing time together. We had so much fun. It was romantic. It was adventurous. I
Well,
learned to.
look how much you learned. You moved to
Yeah,
like an entirely new, I remember that because I mean, he was kind of, if
I
I recall, your first, serious dating adventure, and it
yes.
lasted. It was amazing. I'm like, what? How did she manage this in her first time? And you
Yeah.
got like, 3 months out of it or something. And
Yeah.
it just seemed amazing. But the learnings for yourself, the fact that even when he went poof, you could
Mm,
still, after, a moment or two, kind of settle, take the
yes.
learnings,
Yes.
enjoy what was given, and
Yeah.
also realize that when somebody says that, they're out, that's probably a good thing because you didn't spend more months
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you didn't waste your energy, and eventually you learn how to prioritize yourself, and that's really very important in this
Mm.
whole mindset of chasing versus attracting. So, what are the signs of a woman that is chasing? Well, she's usually the one that's texting first or rushing to follow up. But when she does it, there is anxiety, there is jealousy, there is insecurity if he pulls away. And you then start questioning yourself, is it me? Is it something I did? Am I not enough? Am I too much? Where's the right in
What does he
between?
want? What does he think?
What does
I
he
mean, maybe,
want?
yeah,
Absolutely. Or you overanalyze every single text
that can be
and
a
get
good game, by the way,
a good game.
with your friends. What do you think this means?
Yes, absolutely. But not to the point where it consumes you
No.
and it's the only thing you think about. And when you start your dating journey, it is easy to fall into this trap, dare I say,
Mm.
and you realize that actually, no, dust yourself off, stop, don't do this, stay true to yourself and your journey, your dating journey. This is really important. Or you ignore the red flags and you make up excuses for poor behavior because you're so desperate to be needed, to be wanted, that
Desire.
Oh,
Yeah.
and desire, yeah, that you start overlooking the obvious red flags that if your friend pointed it out, if your friend mentioned this to you, you'd point it out and say, "No, I wouldn't do something like that."
Yeah.
And so you start making up excuses for the poor behavior, or you become an overgiver and you try to earn their affection through favors and this is the good one, compromise. Compromising yourself, compromising your values, your boundaries, contorting and molding yourself to fit into their image because once again, you're trying to prove that you are worthy of their affection or love.
Yeah.
Then I think one of the other things that comes up quite a lot is these little dopamine hits we get when we bing or
Yeah. Yeah.
because
What does it mean? What does it mean?
oh my God, it's so exciting. He's reached out to me again, and suddenly your moods increase, you're excited, and then it's a silly message like, "How's your day?"
Yeah.
or just a photograph of something ridiculous. Um, And so that is what it means, or those are the signs of women who chase. What about women who attract?
Yes. And I think, I mean, kind of to your point, I think it takes us sometimes time, and I know we haven't really discussed this that much on the podcast, but
Yeah.
it takes time to find your confidence. And
Yes.
for most of us, if you've been in long-term relationships, you have been contorting, you have been compromising, you have
Mm,
been overlooking. And
mm,
so suddenly you find yourself out in the dating world again. You're not quite sure who you are, what you want, and it all is quite kind of confusing. And to find the confidence in who you are, let me just say, it takes time. It takes
yeah.
time and experience. And as we both noted, I mean, I've been on this journey, almost 2 years now.
Mm,
And probably just about now, I'm getting into this place where I'm really trying to embrace this idea of loving who I am and
Yes.
loving that if I can attract someone who loves who I am, that's the goal,
Mm,
not to chase.
mm,
So, to your point, um, a woman who is attracting, you give space. You give space for him to initiate. And it
mm,
doesn't mean that you never text first or you never, you play it cool. but give space for people to express themselves. And it's for guys, especially because they may want to lead, they may want to demonstrate their kind of masculinity. And that's fun, right? When they can get in there. But if you're constantly jumping in, then you don't provide that space.
No.
You're also very clear, and I think you're super good at this, very clear about your standards and your
Mm,
desires.
mm.
And some of it you can just keep to yourself. I mean, you don't have to say red flag, red
Yeah.
flag, red flag. But you're clear that, if you're perpetually 30 minutes late for a date, you forget dates, whatever the thing is, you are clear in your head. You don't overlook it. You may say it to
Mm,
him or you may just opt out.
mm.
So you need
Yep.
to maintain those standards. Um,
Absolutely.
the next one is super important to me, and I think both of us have kind of
Yeah.
faced this idea of having a full and joyful life separate
Yeah, definitely.
from the dating adventure.
Yes,
And this
absolutely.
has been a huge game changer for me over the last several years, just growing my social circle. Um,
Mm.
and even in the last 6 months, just thinking, I have such a full week. I barely have time for dating because I'm so busy. And it's fun because then I'm not sitting there waiting for the ping, right? So
Yeah,
develop
absolutely.
a full, joyful life. Um,
Mm.
Notice how he shows up. Is he consistent? Is he
Yeah.
respectful? And is it
Mm.
at the standard, as we mentioned, that you're expecting? It's also
Yeah,
kind of fun to
absolutely.
maintain a bit of mystery. And I think
Mm.
you've said this,
Oh,
you don't, first date, don't give all your trauma, your entire trauma story.
no. Oh, God, no.
Just tease a few little details. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
I've traveled around the world 50 times. And then on the
yeah.
next one,
Mm.
you can tease out some other little detail.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
think,
And
yeah,
yeah,
go.
sorry. Okay, so what I wanted to add to that was it's so true. When you're able to tease out, and I love these words, when you're able to tease out, you're more interesting. People become curious
Yeah.
because you're a massive waterfall spewing everything all the time. You're more like a well. And so people are intrigued by you, people are curious by you, and your words carry a lot more weight,
Mm,
which
mm,
I think is wonderful. There's also one other thing before you move on that I want to mention. You spoke about living a joyful life and independence of dating, independent of a man. But there's something you mentioned, and I just want the listeners to be able to latch onto this a bit more. You know, being clear about your standards and
mm,
what it means to you. You know, it's yeah, you have mentioned that I'm quite clear about the standards that I set in dating, and I am, and I'm
mm,
almost zero compromise on this one. But what it means to you as a woman is that you gain strength from that. And the confidence that Michelle spoke about earlier is you gain confidence in who you are as a person. And men respect that. Men respect a woman who has standards and who will not contort their standards all the time. And it's natural. We do it. Michelle mentioned something very interesting earlier, is that during a 30-year marriage or a 20-year marriage, you're constantly contorting and molding for the other person. And that's a
you
good
have
thing.
to. You have to maintain a relationship, right? You can't just be all about
Absolutely
you.
correct. But for me, what I found was that when you start contorting at the cost of your values, then you have
Mm,
to ask yourself some serious questions.
mm,
And I say that with a smile on my face because I'm actually looking back and thinking, I had to ask myself some serious questions. So
yeah.
that's why I've moved on to the next phase of my life. Michelle, please continue.
So yeah, and I think that whole idea, maintain a bit of mystery,
Mm,
tease out, you're telling a story and you are,
yeah,
there's fun in this. As we said, it's not
yeah.
about manipulation. It's not about saying the three things in the perfect order with the perfect lag between them in order to
Mm,
attract your man. That is not what
mm,
it means. But it does
no,
mean having a bit of fun, showing your lighter side, showing your
mhm,
depth, but not all at once, right? And
yeah,
that also shows confidence. And
yeah,
people,
totally.
men, women, everyone are generally attracted to confidence. And even if you
Yes.
don't feel it all the time, you can put on a pretty good show of it, even in your moments of questioning yourself. But
Mm,
yeah, I think the authenticity as well, and this is like a big one for me. And to your
mm,
point, we compromised over 20 or 30 years. We might
mm,
have lost a little bit of who we are. We've certainly changed who we are. We need to
mm,
figure out who we are. And then we need to be as not rigid, but as authentic as we can be. And I
yeah.
think it's also nice for the other party, again, whether a male or a female friend, um, they understand who you are. You're not constantly shifting and morphing and changing. They can
Mm,
latch on and build an appreciation and respect for who you are, presenting
mm.
yourself in the best possible light now.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you shift from chasing to attracting? Well, there's a few simple things you could do. You could examine your inner story around
Mm,
love and your self-worth. This is really important. And so a couple of things that I want to expand upon over here is that, you know, what does love mean to you? How many people actually understand what is their inner story and their relationship with love? How many of us actually understand our self-worth? I think this is so important. One of the lines we hear all too often amongst women is strong women. I'm I'm too much, yet I'm not
mm,
enough. Well,
yeah,
you are not too much for the right person, and you are too much for the wrong person. And that's
yeah,
quite clear. I like the example, and I use this frequently, is when you're a Bentley, you do not attract the buyer of a Ford. And because the buyer of a Ford would not be able to understand how to service the Bentley, how to take care of the Bentley, drive the Bentley. I don't want to get into cars too much because my knowledge is very limited. But for, if you're looking for a Ford, then great. But a Bentley buyer is not going to buy a Ford car.
mm,
And good to understand what is your self-worth. And maybe it means writing it out and not and asking yourself some provocative questions around
mm,
this. Easy to, for example, say things like, I'd love to date. I'd love to meet a man who is a man of value. And in the same sentence, say something like, oh, but all men are bastards. That is absolutely contradictory because not all men are bastards. There are amazing men out there. Examine your inner story around
mm,
love and self-worth, and then when it does happen, stop initiating all the texting and the calling and the reaching out of fear. And I
yeah,
think this is the big difference, no problem in texting, no problem in calling when it's in a space of confidence, in a space of self-worth, in a space of being authentic, as Michelle mentioned. But when it's a space of fear and scarcity, people pick up on that energy immediately, and energy does not lie. There are many things you can fabricate, but energy is not one of them. And
yeah,
then write down, what are your deal breakers or deal makers? Know what you deserve and what you're
mm,
willing to go to. And I think that's quite important. Part of the whole mindset shift every year of attracting versus chasing is the ability to be honest with yourself. And sometimes you need to say to yourself, hey, you know what? This is actually not the right person for me now. It's time to let them go. That's not something everybody's willing to do. What else could
yeah.
we?
Well, I was just thinking a little bit about what you were saying on the, kind of the texting and the calling. And I
Mm,
think, as we said, it can be quite an amusing, game over drinks to try to
of course.
understand a text or
Mm,
look at them. And I've recently found myself in a situation where, things had gone a bit quiet, and I wasn't sure, is he no longer interested? Has something changed for him? Is he talking to 50 other people, and I'm, not top of the list? And I was sitting there really trying to think about, oh, so should I just ignore it? Should I follow up? What should I do? And I changed my approach.
yeah.
And I'm quite a direct person anyway, so this wasn't very difficult, but I
Yes.
also tried to soften my directness. And by that, what I mean
Mhm.
is I was thinking, okay, are we done here? That's what I'm thinking. And I
Yeah.
kind of want to ask him, so are we done here? Because I haven't heard from you in 3 days. But
Mhm.
instead, what I did is I said what I wanted. And
Mhm.
what I wanted was the next level of communication. And I said, hey,
Mhm.
really enjoyed our conversation 3 days ago. If you're interested in doing an audio or a video call, let me know. Because that would be really interesting as a way to get to know each other because we don't live close to each other. But in that
Yeah.
situation, I think sort of not so intentionally, but I demonstrated a level of kind of confidence in saying what I wanted. He had
Mhm.
plenty of time to back out if he wanted to. And,
Yes.
it was one of those things where I just allowed him then. I gave him days to respond. And I didn't chase him
Mhm.
down. Well, what do you think? What do you think? What day? What day? None of that.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think another thing you can do when you're talking about the deal breakers and deal makers is, our podcast talking about the post date 8, um,
Yes.
reflecting on how that date went in its entirety, what things stood out to you, I think is a really good thing.
Mm. Yeah.
So kind of continuing on with what you can do to shift from chasing to attracting, we mentioned
Mm.
a little bit investing in your life
Mm.
separate to dating. Build your
Yeah.
friendships, build your life, enjoy what you're doing, because when people see happy people, they're naturally attracted to that. And you don't
Oh,
want to
yeah,
put all your
absolutely.
eggs in a dating basket. I'm only going to be happy if and
Yeah.
when. And if and
Yes.
when
I
may
love
take a long time to find that Bentley because they're not on every lot.
which is brilliant. But I like that. Investing in your life and if and when it happens. I really, really like that. And I think something you said earlier, which I mean, I've been quite clear. I'm a woman that is quite clear about what I like, what I don't like. And I'm also a woman that admires other women. And I will always say to you, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And I'm not necessarily meaning the outer shell. I mean who you are as a person. And that is attractive. So can you imagine how much more attractive you are to the right people? But that's because you do invest in yourself and you do invest in your health and your friendships and your joy and growing yourself. So yeah, that's
When you're
absolutely
happy, it attracts happy people, right? I mean, and
totally. Yeah.
people naturally become happier around you. And, there's that whole
Mm,
thing that we all, and then more people want to be near you. And then that Bentley is going to be just around the corner. Um,
so-
and I think, the last kind of step is really to the point of having those standards and becoming your own, you could call it gatekeeper or manager, where you say, nope, I can't accept this. This is not adding value to my life.
mm,
He's perpetually late, or he says, judgmental things or things that don't align with my values, or he's very negative, or whatever the thing is. And you have to take that on board. Be an adult, to be honest.
yes,
Accept
yes,
that you're not probably ever going to change this person, especially now that we're at this age. Maybe there was a slight chance in the 20s, in your 20s, but at 50,
yeah,
you're
no,
not going to
no,
change this person. You're not.
no,
You need
absolutely.
to, as somebody said, they told you who they were at the beginning.
Mm,
Accept, believe,
mm,
and move forward and move on if it's not aligned with who you are and what you are looking
mhm.
for in your journey.
Absolutely. So if energy doesn't lie, how do you cultivate an attractive, energetic vibration and energetic vibe? And a couple of things you could do is you could reconnect with your worth. Excuse me.
Mm,
So that means daily affirmations. And there is so much available online on Spotify or YouTube. And just sitting with the journal and writing it out. And I think one of the things initially when I started my journaling journey, one of the things that I thought about was when I was a young girl, and I'm sure many of us young girls did this. Dear diary, today I met with my friend Janine and designed a business together. Or dear diary, today I saw Tommy and I had a kiss from him.
I
No,
think he
this
really likes me.
no. I think it yeah. This is not the type of journaling. The journaling that we're talking about is something just a little bit more provocative than that. And ask yourself, how do you actually see yourself? What do you admire about yourself? What are your beliefs about yourself? What are the beliefs that serve you and that don't serve you?
Mm,
What
mm,
don't you like about yourself? Have you ever asked yourself that? What is it that you don't like about yourself? And then taking that a step further, how can you wean yourself off those habits that really don't serve you? One of the things that I learned a few years ago about building self-worth and confidence was that the John Kehoe, it was by John Kehoe. I'm a huge fan of his work, and he said, make a list of 20 things.
mm,
Um, Day. Make a list of 20 things about yourself that you're really proud of. And they can be big things, they can be little things, they can be in your personal and or professional life. And it was things like, I've learned to speak a foreign language. I dress really well. I take good care of my health. And when you start creating this list and you start reading it, give yourself 5 minutes to read it every day, you start realizing that you are so much more accomplished, advanced than you think you are.
mm, mm.
Get this because we're always focusing on the other people. We focus on which is external to us,
Or
right?
the negative self-talk that's in your head, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I should have done that.
Oh,
Oh, I'm fat. I'm
yes.
lazy. I'm whatever.
Yes.
I mean, those
Yeah.
kind of thoughts are definitely the ones that need to be
Absolutely.
shoved out the door.
Absolutely. And then how do you shove them out the door? Observe them. get rid of them. They don't serve you. Replace them with something positive instead of saying, "Ooh, I'm fat. Okay, let me start a better healthy eating plan." Or, "Ooh, I'm not enough." No, I am enough. I am enough at this
In
stage of
fact,
my
I'm too
life.
much. No, sorry.
No, you're not. Definitely. And then set clear standards. I'm very clear about the standards I set when it comes to dating, what I will tolerate and what I won't tolerate, and I hold firm to that. And I think it's not something that you start off with from the get-go. It is a learning, practicing process, and it is something that's you do it once and you realize, ooh, actually, that was a bit uncomfortable. But growth only comes through being in a situation which is uncomfortable. And then you do it again and you become better and better and better at it. And before you know it, the standards are so clear and what you will and won't tolerate becomes so clearly ingrained within yourself, it doesn't even become a thing anymore. What,
It's second nature, right?
yeah, second nature. Yeah. I mean, think about the time I had to extract myself from a date, which I've had to do twice now. And now the thought of it, if somebody would say to me, have you ever had to do that? Have you ever had to have you ever had to extract yourself from a date where you potentially bruise another person's ego? Yes, I have, and yes, I will, but I'm not going to
Yeah,
compromise.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think another thing that, kind of you've touched on it a little bit, and through
Mm,
those two steps, so reconnecting with your worth, maybe through being really intentional about your journaling or your
mm,
self-talk, your goals, whatever it is, and then having clear standards that you abide by. Those
mm,
things will also help you with your sort of emotional regulation, right? So
mm,
if something is kind of, is upsetting you, or you're thinking, ooh, does he like me? Is he texting
mm,
back? What am I waiting for? Whatever the
mm,
thing is that you find yourself sort of in that chasing mode,
mm,
go back to those practices and just breathe, pause, and maybe take extra time to respond, because we all know that in the moment, our first response
mm,
is rarely the best response. Um,
mm,
Take that time to breathe, to think.
mm,
I sometimes like even write out my answers, not so much in a dating situation, but in other
mm,
situations where I've felt something particularly strongly emotional. And you can write it out,
mm.
think through it, figure out what you're really trying
Yeah.
to say, and then be clear. I think
Mm,
also something I think we don't do enough of, and I think, I'm not going to blame society here, but feminine energy is amazing,
excuse me.
right? We have this well of energy that comes from beyond us and deep within us.
Mm,
And I think that in some ways, society says, push that aside. You need masculine energy is what's going to make you successful, and
yes.
feminine energy is going to make you weak. And so you tend to kind of, sort of, and I know I did this very much so, especially in a professional situation.
Mm,
But if you can think more holistically and tap into that side of yourself that's feminine, that finds the ease, the grace, the love of yourself, and
mm,
embrace a warm embrace of yourself like you would give a friend, that will
yeah.
also help you in this energetic shift to go from, kind of chasing and, scarcity into
Mm.
abundance, joyful, and attracting.
Yeah, I love this word joyful. And I think the most elegant and probably freeing dating strategy that you will ever hear is not about the 3 text messages to send somebody in order to hook them. No, it's to stop chasing and to start attracting. And this is
Mm.
not about manipulation or playing games. It's about reclaiming your power, radiating your truth. How many of us actually look at ourselves and say, damn it, I love myself. I'm so amazing.
So cool.
So freaking cool. And not in a way that is conceited, but in a way that is
No.
authentic. I have a girlfriend that says to me, and she and her husband have been married for, for 30, 35, 40 years now. No, 30 years.
Wow.
There's every decade I land up marrying a new woman, a new version of a woman, because she changes. And he says it's so beautiful to see how she moves through these transformations. And even after 30 years, he
That's
is
amazing.
one chasing her. And he's still the one that plays this masculine role. And she's still the one that's attractive. And I think it's because she radiates this energy that you can't but want to be a part, want to draw
Yeah.
close to. And it's really beautiful. And the energy that you radiate will either pull a man toward you or it
Mm.
will push you away. And be grateful. Be grateful when you see, especially when you start your dating journey. You may not always be aware of this after being married for such a long period of time or being in a relationship for such a long period of time, is that when somebody splits up with you, you think, oh my God, it's devastating. What have I done?
Lost everything.
I've lost everything. And you blame yourself. But really, it's just about the natural filtering system that says this is not the one for you. And the more time and energy you spend on the people that are not right for you spend less time with the people that are right for you, whether, like you said, whether that be friendships, whether that be in a dating situation. So always bear that in mind. Become magnetic. Post-divorce, one of my biggest goals was becoming whole. That was
Mm.
one of my myself because I knew that if I was whole, I wouldn't need anybody to complete me. The person that would be in my life would merely complement me and complement and enhance my life and who I am as a person. And then finally remember you are the prize. So take time to invest in yourself, to look at yourself, to ask yourself the
And
questions
to keep building yourself, right? I
and
mean,
build your
you can continue to enhance. None of us is perfect. We don't have it all sorted
absolutely.
out, but you
Nope.
can build whatever you feel like you're kind of like, oh, I would, maybe I could be a little better read, or maybe I could,
Yes.
take better care of my health.
Yes.
Invest, focus on that,
Absolutely.
and you will feel more confident, more authentic.
Yeah.
You'll radiate a new energy just purely by investing.
Absolutely. So, full disclosure here, one of my little habits that I'm working on is observing and not absorbing. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, observing how I behave in a dating situation, how the person behaves. As you know, I've been seeing somebody for the last 5 months now, and just really observing that type of behavior, the dynamics between
Mm,
us, history between us, but not absorbing everything. And it is not easy. It is
mm,
really, it's not easy to do, but it's possible. And the more you do it, the better you become. And so you almost develop a little boundary, I guess, or a little veil of not taking everything in and upon yourself, but some
mm, mm.
let go and say, okay, that's absolutely fine. That's great. Thank you for sharing that with me, but it's not going to be a part of who I am and what my journey is all about. Anyway, those are my closing thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you are able to take something out of it. And if it's resonated with you, then do share it. Share it with a friend or a family member and help us grow a community of dating dames.
And if you're looking for guidance or just a laugh along the way, please join us on Dating Dames V2 on Instagram or
Mhm.
Facebook.
Yes, and until next time, embrace your adventure, trust your instincts, and above all, remember it's not about him, it's about you.